So today we're going to talk a little bit about transformation stories. I'm not going to be on long, guys, because I've got a client at 1 o'clock. But I wanted to talk a little bit about this idea of sliding doors moments where we often, we make a decision, something happens, something changes in our life, and it completely changes the trajectory for us entirely in our life. If you haven't seen the film Sliding Doors, it's a film with Gwyneth Paltrow in it. And it shows this day that she runs to catch the subway train. And the split happens in her life of the time that she got the train and the time she didn't get the train. And then you follow the story of her, of this getting the train life and the life that she led as a result of not getting the train. And I was thinking about this week in regards to transformation stories for people. And of course, if you don't know me already, I'm a spiritual psychologist and I work one-to-one with people as well as in groups. And I have an academy online where I help people to transform their lives from the old way to the new way. And this story of sliding doors was coming up for me quite a lot this week, about this feeling of some of the decisions that we make in our lives can be this point, this split point between where we were going and where we are going now, And I've had quite a few pinnacle moments in my life, and I'm sure, if you guys are joining me, feel free to share in the chat your pinnacle moments. But what we kind of find in life often is that we do have these pinnacle moments in our lives where things completely change for us, where something, a decision, meeting somebody new, a new place, moving home, making a decision to do something or to not do something, often, changes everything in our life. And sometimes until we don't kind of recognize this until we kind of come back. We look back at where we've been and that moment, these moments in our lives, we don't realize that these are huge changing moments until it's too late. And till it's too late, that sounds like it's negative, but until after the process that we kind of look back in hindsight and we realize how much things have changed for us. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about one of mine. So one of my transformation times was probably the moment when I actually got kicked out of sixth form. And if you don't know me, I had a nervous breakdown when I was 15. I'm undiagnosed. Well, I was undiagnosed neurodivergent. I have ADHD. And I spent a large proportion of my life being very, very depressed. I was suicidal from the age of 11. And, and it just kind of got worse from there on in, really. And around the age of 15, I had a nervous breakdown. And I can recall spending probably about a year, 2 years off, about a year off of school. And this was just during my my GCSEs. So this was really quite a pinnacle time. And I can remember going back in for my GCSEs. And, this was something that was really difficult for me. I was having really severe panic attacks going back into school. And there was a lot of rumours around that I'd gotten pregnant, and that's why I'd taken this long time off school. So I was also facing all of these rumors coming back in, and a lot of scrutiny, which didn't help either. And then there was this whole kind of nervousness of the fact that I'd actually spent a very long period of time off of school, and that was like a huge, it was huge coming back in again. And I came back to kind of sit my GCSEs because, at the age of 16, everybody's like, this is the most important thing in your life, and if you're a young person watching this, it's not the most important thing in your life. Do your best if you can, but trust me, it's not. I'm on my 3rd degree at this current moment in time, so trust me, it's not the most important thing in your life. And I was a smart girl. So luckily I did get good grades despite the fact that I had missed most of the year. And, as people do, we don't know what we want to do. So we kind of float around. And this is one of the biggest problems, I think, for a lot of people is that we float, and people just kind of ask me questions sometimes, when I'm talking to clients and things, they're like, I just don't understand why things keep going wrong or why things just do this. And it's like, because you have no intention about what it is that you're doing. And if you have no intention, if you have no goal, if you have no vision about where you're going, you do just float. And people who float through life end up getting put into situations that they don't necessarily want to be in because they have no direction. And I often say to my clients, be a salmon. Be a salmon. You want to go upstream. You don't want to float around, float. People that float are like dead fishes. You don't want to be a dead fish. You want to be a salmon. You want to go upstream. You want to have a purpose about where you're going and what it is that you're doing. Because when we float through life without intention, life takes us places where we don't want to go. Life takes us to meet people that we don't want to be with, and we tend to allow, when we're floating, we allow the subconscious to kind of lead us. And for a lot of us, our subconscious programming is, a lot of that is from trauma. It's a lot of stuff that we're trying to heal, but we're not conscious of, and so we end up replicating these cycles of trauma. So for me, at the age of 16, I was just kind of floating through life, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And so the next thing that made sense, because everybody else was doing it in my year, was to go to sixth form. And luckily, my teachers kind of gave me a chance, but also I had gotten, enough GCSEs to be able to go forward to, to do my A levels. But I wasn't in it. I wasn't interested in it. I'd kind of had, I'd had this nervous breakdown, and I was still suffering from mental health issues. And actually, over that summer period, I think between finishing my GCSEs and starting A levels, I discovered cannabis. And so, as an ADHDer, we are really, much more likely to become addicted to substances. And this had been this thing that I'd been looking for that I hadn't found. The thing that gave me the dopamine that my brain was missing, the thing that was, it just shed all the pain. It just took the pain away from me. And I'm not recommending this, guys, because, it sounds good, but it comes with a whole load of other kind of issues. So, I started to find drugs, and drugs became something that was really kind of, healing for me at the time. It made me feel like there was something worth living for. It gave me feelings of happiness. It shed a lot of the feelings of like trauma and suffering that I was experiencing. And as an ADHD who has like a lack of dopamine in my brain, but I wasn't aware of this at the time, it gave me a huge, it gave me kind of like, it made me feel normal, basically. It made me feel normal, and it made me be able to go out and have a normal life. And as somebody who's autistic, it also allowed me to go out and have a social life. So I found drugs around the age of about 17, and at this point, that just became my only thing that I wanted to do, because, after being suicidal from the age of 11 and suffering really severe depression throughout that whole period of time, finding something that suddenly made me feel not like shit, suddenly made me feel like, good and happy, and that it was something worth doing. And I started to go out, and I started to make friends, and this was something that was like a huge time for me. But the problem is that my focus wasn't on sixth form. I didn't really want to be there, so I didn't engage. What I did was, I'd rock up, I'd hang out in the what do they call it? I don't know, like the the room that you all go and hang out in. So, I'd go and hang out in the common room. I'd go and hang out in the common room at lunchtime and at break time, and I'd miss my lessons, and I'd go off and I'd smoke drugs, and then I'd come back again. And, I just never, see you later, Marie. I never really kind of like joined in on anything. I just kind of like didn't want to do the stuff. So I kind of was there, but I wasn't really there. I didn't want to be at home. I wanted to be on drugs all the time. And I was in the common room all the time. I wanted to be with my friends, and I wanted to speak to people, and I wanted to hang out, but I didn't actually want to engage. So the courses that I was enjoying, I was studying sociology, which I loved. So typical ADHD, I joined in on the things that I loved, and the things that I didn't like I completely ignored. So, the first year kind of was difficult, and I can remember going into, the finishing up doing my AS levels, which is the first year of A levels, which is like, I don't know, sophomore year, I suppose, in America. So I kind of ended up doing that. And then we kind of came back in, and it was like a question towards the end of the year about like what I wanted to do. And my sixth form basically politely said to me that we wouldn't be asking you to come back for the next year. So I was like, oh, okay. And it was like they politely asked me to leave, in effect. They kind of shut me out, and which was fair enough, because I wasn't really engaging and whatever. But with that, one of the issues with that was the fact that, when you float through life and you do things because other people are doing them, and because it's the social norm and blah, 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 you actually don't do anything that you want to do. And this is a huge problem, because when you float through life, you do stuff that you don't want to do just because other people are doing it. And, the decision to go to A levels probably wasn't right for me at the time. I wasn't able to engage. My mental health wasn't good enough. I was starting to, I started doing drugs and things. This floating through life was the problem. And what I find is that, and you know, I've worked with clients for 7 years, and you know, I watch the patterns that they do in their lives. I understand the patterns that run in my life, and we obviously do spiritual psychology here. So we believe in that there's a higher power that does guide us. And what I've noticed is that the universe starts with a tap and ends with a slap, is what I say to my clients. Because when you're in the wrong place, it will just try to tap you into where you're supposed to be. And this could be that, you know, somebody breaking up with you. It could be somebody like, you know, an intuition, a feeling like, oh, I'm on the wrong path. And then before you know it, if you keep ignoring it, you keep ignoring this feeling, you know, you keep ignoring the universe trying to tap you back into where you're supposed to be, you'll end up having these great catastrophe moments, crisis moments, dark nights of the soul, because you're not doing as you're supposed to be doing. And the universe ultimately, you know, is a hospitable place. It's a place that loves you. It's an energy that loves you and wants to see you doing your best and on your mission, because you have a mission here. We all have missions here, and we're all supposed to be doing those missions for the betterment of ourselves and for all. And when you're not on your mission, the universe will try and tap you towards where you're supposed to go. Now, if you don't take the tap, it will at some point come with a great big fucking hand and smack you into your, into your mission. And for me, one of the things for that was being chucked out of sixth form, because ultimately I was just there. I wasn't doing anything good with my life. It's like, yeah, I was studying my AS levels and I did achieve my AS levels, but I wasn't really engaged. I wasn't really interested. The only reason why I was there was because I wanted to see my friends and kind of hang out. And actually that wasn't really good or beneficial for me. So I ended up getting slapped out of sixth form. And at that point, at sort of 17, I was like, fuck, now what am I going to do with my life? You know, now what am I going to do? And there was this horrific thing of like, oh my God, I'm going to have to go and get a job. You know, and the only reason really that I'd kind of gone to sixth form was because I didn't feel ready to go and get a job. So at 17, I was like, oh, now what am I going to do? I mean, it's probably 18, maybe 18 by this point. So at 18, I'm kind of looking for jobs. I've been kicked out and now I have to go and find something to do. And I'm like, well, what am I interested in? And this was when I began my pathway down like holistic therapies. So I ended up getting a job in a herbalist and an aromatherapist called Culpeper, based off of Nicholas Culpeper. If you guys are in the herbalist or aromatherapy fields, you'll know who Nicholas Culpeper is a pretty big name in herbalism. And I kind of ended up working there, and I did really well there. And I ended up working there on my own on Sundays as well as during the week. And Sundays I was their girl that opened up and closed up, so I got more responsibility. And during that time, somehow along the lines, the universe had put a course in front of me that was to study to become a life coach. And obviously, because I'd had a nervous breakdown at the age of 15, I'd kind of gotten into things like, I was under pretty severe psychotherapy and psychiatry and stuff like that anyway, because as a child, I immediately entered the mental health system. So I had a psychotherapist, I had a psychologist, I had a psychiatrist, I was doing all sorts of stuff. So I'd already kind of gone into all of that. And then obviously that field kind of opened up to things like Tony Robbins, and Wayne Dyer and, what's her name? Louise Hayes, people like Esther Hicks, people like that. So I'd kind of gotten into this kind of like the world of self-help as a result of people kind of offering books recommendations to me and tapes and things like that. And somewhere along the lines, have no idea, cannot recall how this came up, but I'd had an offer of a course through Newcastle College to study to become a life coach, to do kind of life coaching, neuro-linguistic programming and counselling skills. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. And I did do it. And I think it was like a 10-month course, something like that. And maybe a year, I don't know. And because I'd been kicked out of school, I was like, I kind of felt like I should be kind of doing something educational. And I did this course on the Sundays whilst I was working in this shop, because Sundays was quite quiet for, I was in Bath and we kind of it was on the main high street, but it was a quiet little kind of aromatherapy herbalist shop. So it was kind of niche at the time. This would have been back in, 2004, 2005, somewhere around there. So maybe not as kind of, important as if it was like, I live in Glastonbury now, so Glastonbury, if you had a herbalist there, it'd be busy as hell on a Sunday. So on Sundays, I just did this course. And I just kind of like did my work, and I ended up completing the course that I did with it, and getting my qualification as a life coach, which again I did nothing with for years, which is really funny because it's what I do now. You know, I coach people now one to one, and I spent probably about 10. I mean, when did I mean, you know, I used to help people pro bono, and it wasn't until 2017 that I set my business up to do life coaching. So that was like 12 years later, maybe, 10 years later, something like that. So the universe really does tap, 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 tap you towards where you're supposed to be. And if you take those little taps, if you take those little intuitions, if you take those little serendipitous moments, those little moments where the universe drops stuff in your lap and you move towards it, because I wonder, you know, and I have no regrets because, you know, whatever. But I wonder if I'd had the guts to set up my practice then. You know, if I'd set up my practice and I'd gone all in on my business, I'd probably be a multi-millionaire now. But instead I didn't. I was too traumatized and I was too fucked up in the head. So instead I became like a drug addict for like 8 years, tried a load of shitty jobs that I didn't like, got sacked from a load of them, stole money, did loads of terrible things for like 8 years until I decided to do something better with my life, move town and go to university for the first time. And that, you know, but these trajectories, you know, obviously back then, you know, the universe was trying to get me on my path, but I just didn't listen. I was too stubborn. I was too like in my ego of like, I'm not good enough. Who am I? I can't help people. I was at the time, I knew I could help people because I've been through loads of stuff. I've been through hell since the age of 11. But at the age of 19, I didn't feel like anybody would listen to me. Who would listen to me anyway? At the age of 19 is what I felt. So I didn't set up my practice. But if I'd set up my practice then, who knows where I'd be? I mean, I know where I'd be. I'd be a multi-millionaire. You know, I'd be a multi-millionaire. But I didn't do it, and I started late. Every time is all we have is now. There's no such thing as now or time or late or whatever. So that's all I did, bullshit. But you know, but I started, and here I am now. So 2017, I've been doing this since, and again, you know, I've helped hundreds of people to change their lives, and I've seen their transformations. I watch these moments because I've been through it myself. I can see where the universe is trying to tap people towards in their pathways. So I help people to stop getting the slap. You know, don't wait for the slap, guys. Try and recognize when the universe is tapping you towards something, and you'll get onto your right path so much faster. And when you are on the right path, the whole of the world opens doors up for you, and it just flows into your life in a much easier manner than when you're trying something you're not supposed to be doing. So here today on the 1st of October, I'm inviting you to make some big changes in your life. Work out what it is that you're doing that you're not supposed to be doing, and have a look to where the universe is trying to tap you towards something that fulfills you and fulfills other people in a bigger way. And if you feel like you're meant for something, if you're meant for something bigger and greater, and you haven't quite hit your transformation story, you're still in your villain arc where you're trying to work out who you're supposed to be or where you're supposed to be. Your transformation can come tomorrow if you're willing to accept it, if you're ready to accept it. Isn't that right, little face? Hey? Isn't that right? Yes. So if you're willing and ready, you can absolutely accept your transformation. And if you'd like to, guys, I've got a book that talks all about my process in how I managed to change myself around from being a mess to a success. And you're welcome to check that out. There's an audiobook that I've recorded for you. There's also the full book, and I've got a 7-day course that's available for free. If you'd like to check that out, I think I've got a link in my bio, but if I don't, then just send me a message and I can link you up to that. And if you feel like you are ready for something bigger and better, then you might really enjoy joining my transformation program, where we heal your trauma, we heal all your stuff, and we get you ready to actually live out the life that you want to live. And Little Face is basically always that cat is a Little Face, by the way. Little Face is always in on all of everybody's sessions. So if you love cats, she'll come and join your sessions as well, and she'll help you to become your best self. That's my mission on life, and the universe has been trying to tap me onto it for about 20 years, and I'm actually doing it now. So I'd love to see you guys get onto your mission, whatever that might be, so we can create a world that is a happier, better, more wonderful place, not just for ourselves, but also for everybody else's lives that we touch. I love you guys. Have a great day. I've got to go because I've got a client, but I'll speak to you all soon. Take care of yourselves. And if you've got any questions or queries, hit me up. Links in bio. And my email is team@lauramaelstrom.com. You can contact me there and I'd love to hear from you. Take care, guys. Bye.